Welcome back to From Wounds to Wisdom, the podcast where we turn life's hardest chapters into powerful transformations. Today's guest had it all: the perfect body, the perfect brand, the perfect lie. Derek Newborn's life looked flawless, but the truth, it was crumbling. Today he exposes the pain behind the picture and the faith that saved him. If your life looks perfect but feels hollow, this episode's your wake-up call. Stay tuned. You're about to hear what it really takes to shed the image, face the pain, and find your true self.
I would even say I had my dream life on the outside, but inside was completely dark and empty, because all I literally cared about was making sure that Derek was never abandoned again. The mental hospital was the main turning point. I've been to rock bottom, right? As far you can't get lower than trying to take your own life. Understanding that, number one, I opened my eyes, so I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? God doesn't make mistakes. And so I just get curious about what that reason is.
This is From Wounds to Wisdom with Barbie Moreno. Real talk, deep healing, and stories that turn pain into power. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome to the podcast From Wounds to Wisdom. This is your host, Barbie Moreno. And today's guest is Derek Newborn, once named one of Florida's top personal trainers and a featured fitness model. On the outside, he looked unstoppable. But behind the image was a man battling self-sabotage, body shame, emotional numbness, and spiritual emptiness. A near fatal breakdown, Derek chose to dismantle the persona that was destroying him and rebuild from radical truth and spiritual integrity. Now he helps high-achieving women heal from toxic relationships and emotional burnout, guiding them back to their God-given identity. This conversation is a powerful reminder: no matter how far you've fallen, you can rise, reclaim, and thrive. Thank you for being here, Derek.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
From our conversation before, I know that you've got some stuff that from your childhood and things like that, but I kind of wanted to address the idea that people who seem to have it all on the outside, right? Then it's like people look at you and you're like, really? How's life so hard for you? So can you talk to us about what was going on the inside after you're going through, you're a fitness model, you're doing all of these
Yeah.
things. Everybody's
Yeah.
looking at you. How does somebody like that have problems? And then probably you don't get a lot of sympathy, I would imagine, with
Yeah, well, like you said, on the outside, I was living my dream life. I would even say I had my dream life on the outside. Um, in shape, model, even healthy relationship, all of that stuff. But inside was completely dark and empty. And so the more I chased those external things, whether it was a photo shoot, whether it was chasing another woman outside my relationship, trying to find something to make me feel just like baseline, feel worthy enough to exist. The more I did that, the darker it got, because I was just creating more sabotage within my life. And given my external world, I knew that if I went to somebody and was like, hey, I'm struggling with this, most people around would be like, what do you have to be
right.
upset or depressed about? And then that, just knowing I couldn't do that, just put such a huge burden on me. I really didn't know what to do. And at that point, I was still unclear on why I was having these issues, why I was continuing to self-sabotage, because no matter what amount of self-sabotage, it didn't bring any relief. And so it
Why?
took,
Did you figure out the why?
yes, because I had childhood abandonment issues.
Mm.
And so abandonment kind of showed up from a very early age all the way up to um, my mid 20s. And then after my mid 20s, I subconsciously, like, that was my final straw. And I just committed to making sure that I would never feel abandoned again. So then that was why, even though I had a great relationship, had great career, everything was thriving, I was still looking for external validation because I felt like anybody close to me was going to leave me at some time because I already been shown it really doesn't matter if you're a good person or not. People that you care about are going to leave. That's what I was exposed to as a child. So that's lying, cheating, all of that stuff because all I literally cared about was making sure that Derek was never abandoned again.
And so who abandoned you?
At childhood.
Hmm.
So it started off with my father being sent to prison.
Oh, wow.
And then that obviously put my mom in the single mom seat. And so she had to navigate the best she could. So then that put me in other isolating events, whether it was like me sleeping outside the gate of the school before the sun come up, waiting for the
Mhm.
maintenance man to let me come in, and then nobody wants to hang out with a kid that sleeps outside, all
Yeah.
the way up. And as my mom was trying to figure out her life and she would get in new relationships, we would come home and like every piece of appliance and furniture would be gone. We wouldn't have anything and we'd sleep on the floor, no microwave or anything.
Oh, wow.
And so we just had this reoccurring thing. And then the final straw was in my mid 20s. I came home and my wife had taken everything, much like I experienced as a child. So that like subconsciously was the straw that broke the camel's back, where I just started making sure that I was never abandoned again. However, with all that self-sabotage, I literally created my greatest fear because people can only put up with so much of that behavior before they're like, I got to walk away. So I created my own worst fear by trying so hard not to be abandoned. I actually created it in my life.
And that's very common. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? Like we're drawn to what we know.
Hmm.
We often create or manifest
Yeah.
what we don't want because it's so much in our mind that that's
Yeah.
exactly what comes to us, right?
Yeah. 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 We get delivered what's most saturated, not what we proclaim we want. Right.
Yeah. And so your journey, one of the things that you talk about is spirituality.
Hmm.
So what does that mean to you?
Spirituality, it means that we were put here with a specific intent and purpose with our um, creator's idea. And so spirituality means that version of us that was put on this earth never actually goes away. It's always there. Now we can try to run from it, we can put on costumes to disconnect from it, but it's always there. And that's usually if you're ever searching for healing or change or transformation, if you can return back to the person that was put on this earth as God intended, it will usually have all the healing answers for you.
When you were struggling, was that part of your life or did you find that later?
No, I found that later. That came after the suicide attempt, after some time in the mental hospital
Mm.
before I started rediscovering heading that direction.
What brought I mean, obviously your childhood sounded, like it was like pretty traumatic. I mean, you come home, there's nothing there. You have a wife then who does the exact same thing to you. What was
Yeah.
the thing that pushed you to, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't one thing, but accumulation, but what put you in that place where you're like, I just can't do this anymore?
It was really just looking around and seeing all the self-destruction and pain and hurt that I'd caused, not only myself, but everybody around me, including my immediate family, my girlfriend at the time, all of that stuff. Because I like none of it like made me feel better, but like I couldn't figure out why that was my go-to. And at that time, I hadn't understood or reverse engineered the abandonment stuff yet. So it was kind of like me just looking around, being like, I've literally just destroyed everything that I've been given. I've been so fortunate. I've caused so much hurt. It was like I couldn't like stand myself, like that version of me. And I
Yeah.
think the depression, the going back and forth was literally like my spirit saying, let that version of you go. And
Yeah.
I just, took it literally instead with the suicide attempt. But it was showing me you need to let this version of yourself go.
And was that attempt and then, preceding that going into a mental hospital, was that the turning point or did you struggle when you got out?
The mental hospital was the main turning point. And that's because you don't you pretty much lose all ability to choose. You don't get to choose when you go to sleep, eat, whether
Mm.
you want to listen to music, whether you watch TV, whether you want to go outside, whatever it may be. And so it was really left, it was just me and you get some crayons and some puzzles and some paper. But it kind of like there's no escaping myself. So it was almost like I got to reintroduce myself, like two people meeting for the first time who don't like they had no intention to meet, but they just got locked in a room together. So you might as well learn about this person and have a conversation with them. And that's what got me pointed back towards the version that God put here.
Interesting, because your dad went to prison, right?
Hmm.
And then it seems like you created your own prison. So he was
Yes.
physically put into a prison and you
Yeah.
were mentally put into a prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems to be a theme within the bloodline where we get the men in the bloodline, they get overwhelmed or whatever it may be, and they get themselves in situations
Mm.
and then they end up abandoning um, but doing it unwill like unknown, not on intention, right? So he was making whatever choice to make something better and ended up abandoning me. I was trying to do things better, but ended up abandoning. So all this work has helped me be able to break that generational cycle. I will say that.
So did he also have a hard childhood?
Yeah, his father would just leave without saying anything for like months, and then and then his father would just show back up like he wasn't gone for 3 months.
Mm.
So there's been that trend for sure.
Yeah. And especially the abandonment, right? Because
Right.
that's abandonment on his side. And then it
Exactly.
happened to you. Do you have children?
Yes, I have a son. Yeah.
And do you focus on being there because of that?
Yeah. For the first, because I had him when I was 16,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've been in his life this whole time. Um, but I was starting to see him pick up the same kind of childhood stuff that I picked up.
Mm.
And so for the past several years, I've been intentional about making sure he doesn't go down the same route that I did or doesn't have the same experience that I did
And
as a young man.
so I would imagine since you had him at 16 and then you went through all this stuff on your own, right? Do you guys have like a good relationship now, or does he hold that against you?
No, we have a great relationship now. We've always had a great relationship, but now he's getting to the point where he's realizing that I'm only 16 years older than him, and that I have
Mhm.
I have some wisdom, and I do want to help him. I'm just not out to make his life harder than it has to be. But
Yeah.
yeah, we have a great relationship.
And so is your mom still alive?
Yep.
Do
Yeah.
you have a relationship with her?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a great relationship with both my parents. My mom I caused a lot of pain in her life when I was going through my dark times.
Yeah.
Um, and she has her own bouts with mental illness and depression. So it's kind of like the same thing with my son. I just create a new observation for her so that she doesn't have to worry about me or carry that burden any longer. So I'm just in the process of creating new observations for everybody around me.
So, like my family has a bunch of mental illness, right? And I've gone through
Mhm.
like my own depression. That's kind of where this podcast came from. And
Okay.
one thing that like I kind of learned on my journey is there's this perception that mental illness is biologically inherited. My view on
Mhm.
it is that it's inherited through actions and, the generational trauma, not necessarily biological. On
Yeah.
your journey, like I just kind of interested in like your take on that.
As far as whether I think it's
Biology, like if it's, if there's actually like, you can inherit it and no matter what, you're kind of screwed because your parents have mental illness, or
I,
if it's actually more of like the trauma that's carried down.
I think you inherit the generational trauma
Yeah.
to an extent. Actually, not to an extent, all the way, because I've been on both sides where I told myself and I believe that I struggle with depression. And I used to say, like, every morning I woke up, I know that depression is there, so I have to be proactive about it. And now it's more like I I I know I have the choice. I can choose depression,
Right.
right, or I can choose something else. Now, I've been to rock bottom, right? As far like you can't get lower than trying to take your own life. So I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm
Right.
saying if you point yourself a different direction back towards where you came, you can start to give yourself a choice instead of feeling like depression is the only thing that you um, have and the only thing that you live with. I promise you, there's another lane right next to depression. I
Yeah.
promise. But yeah, I feel like you pick it up through trauma more
Through
than
the trauma.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they're discovering that in science now. Like they've always said it's something that you couldn't get rid of. Like if your parents have it, you're going to have it. And I think that they're finally coming to understand that it's not like actually like biology. It's because we continue to repeat this pattern of trauma, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, even though it was in my mom, it was somewhere before her too,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of people aren't having like these conversations or doing this work. So they just kind of pass it down without really knowing.
And then
Kind
people
of
who
pass it
have
on.
that, right, like depression or whatever the case may be, they think they're just doomed. Like this is
Yeah.
just something that like I can't help it. My family had it. Like it's just this doomsday thing where you're saying like I choose to choose something different.
Yeah. Yeah. Like literally the first thing I go to is just understanding that number one, I open my eyes, so I'm here for a reason,
Yeah.
right? God doesn't make mistakes. And so I just get curious about what that reason is,
Yeah.
right?
Can you do you mind explaining what your suicide attempt was? Like what you did?
Pretty much suffocation with zip ties and plastic bags and
Oh
pain
wow.
pills.
So you meant it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just by God's grace that my mom just happened to show up because she felt like something was wrong.
Oh, I bet that was heartbreaking for both of you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of guilt and shame on my part for putting her through all that,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
'Cause a lot of people will say they've had suicide attempts, but I'm not saying like to discount their attempts, but their attempts, they knew they were going to make it through that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
was, I mean, that extreme means that you really meant not to make it through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy because at that time I lived in a gated community. So you had to like call me to get in.
Hmm.
But she had just happened to drop by, and it just so happened completely random that the gate was open.
Yeah. So
And
not random.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally not random, right?
yeah, yeah. So,
Where do you go from that, going to a mental institute, to being where you are today, helping other people?
so the first step out of rock bottom was looking around. Like I said, it caused like all this pain and destruction, but also acknowledging that the common denominator in being abandoned and all this destruction was myself.
Yeah.
So if I was the common denominator, that means I had control over it, which means I still have control because I'm still here. So the first step was taking extreme ownership of everything.
Mhm.
Once I was able to take ownership of the present, it gave me a little breathing room to start backtracking. And that's how I discovered all those experiences of abandonment. It didn't excuse my behavior, but it gave me a little insight of like, oh, this piece of the puzzle fits here.
Right.
And once I had ownership of that and I could start my own healing journey, there wasn't really anything that anyone could like say or hold against me because I already took a account for it and
Accountability.
had ownership of it. And so I really started, obviously, my own personal journey, but being able to help the women that are the partners of essentially the type of person that I was, whether very self-absorbed, narcissistic, unhealed trauma, whatever it may be, because if you're on the other end of it, you're usually going to need therapy or healing, or you have your own trauma and all that stuff. So that's how I started working with women directly, is essentially helping the women that were on the other side,
Mm,
the people like me. And then I'm able to kind of not fast track, but give them like a little backstage pass to help them understand that like whatever you experience with them, it was there before you even showed up.
because women do take that on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
So I'm able to help them from that aspect.
There's a saying, once a narcissist, always a narcissist. So, like, obviously, if you're helping women move through that and you seem like you're no longer a narcissist, right? I don't
I'll
know
take
you
it.
enough,
Yeah.
right? How do we go from a mindset? Because a narcissist is like everything's about them, right? No
Yeah.
matter what, they create everything to be 100% about them. And I would imagine your fitness journey was about your narcissism as well. There's control there. There's, if I look good on the
Yeah.
outside, where did that come from, do you think?
Well, I will say there's definitely different levels of narcissism.
Yeah.
So I would have definitely called my narcissist during that time to the extent of lying and cheating and just saying whatever I needed to say to get what I wanted.
Mm,
Right? No like physical abuse, no verbal abuse or anything of that. Just people pleasing, telling everybody what they need to hear so I could get from them. Complete disregard for their emotions and all of that stuff. Right. And so if you take the abandonment issues with the success and attention of a fitness model, it becomes like the perfect fire for
right.
narcissism, right? And I would say 99.9 of narcissists are created from childhood
Right.
trauma,
Yep.
right? And so it was literally like the perfect storm of to fuel a narcissist. And also, right, again, narcissists aren't born, so people have to contribute to that to keep fueling the narcissist, which is
Mm,
another aspect of what I help women with because they don't realize, you know, that they contribute to it by, trying to find the good or forgiving or staying or saying, oh, we'll get through it or whatever it may be, right? You can also starve a narcissist where they just leave you alone or move on or whatever it may be.
and if they're picking a narcissist, it's their own wounds, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
Yeah.
all these wounded people. We're all wounded. We're all just going around
Yeah.
wounding everybody else.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm
Right.
a woman, and if I'm with a narcissist, I'm currently not, but I have been in the past, right?
Mhm.
How do I come to you, and I'm talking about my narcissistic partner. What do you do for
Mhm.
me?
What's your goal? To break free or you just venting to me or what?
Well, let's play it both ways. Let's say I am glutton for punishment and I want to fix him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, first off, I would ask you what you're trying to fix in him specifically,
Hmm.
and then whatever that answer
Right.
is usually attached to your own wound that you're avoiding.
So let's say we go back to you. It sounds like mostly your narcissism was manipulation.
Yeah.
So let's just say it's the same scenario.
Okay. So yeah, he's doing a lot of lying, cheating,
Right.
and you're choosing to stick around.
Yeah. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. And you're sticking around because you want to help him or you want to save him or you think you can fix him.
Right. I have a savior complex, right? But I don't know it yet.
Okay. Okay. Has there been lying and cheating in your parents'
Mm.
relationship?
Yeah. Let's say my actually, truthfully, my dad.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And did your mom stick around or bail out?
He bailed, so she stuck around, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then if your father left from cheating at an early age, so that's what you're trying to avoid again, is your
Yeah.
partner leaving.
Yeah. And you're right. That's exactly what happened, right? He left at an early age, so then you're trying to fix it so that they don't leave.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
so essentially every time all you're doing is essentially giving up yourself
Hmm.
for the sake of others because the last thing you spiritually ever want to experience is one of the closest people to you leaving.
Goes back to
Okay, you'll do
abandonment.
whatever. It doesn't matter if they lie, it doesn't matter how many times they cheat. We're gonna make this work. I'm gonna fix them.
So it's my own version of abandonment, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, same
And
thing.
then so you're dealing with that version of abandonment. Meanwhile, by you staying, you're pretty much telling me that my behavior is acceptable. So
Hmm.
you're also validating me. So then I can validate my own stuff. And then now I don't ever have to face anything. So now you're doing both of us a disservice. So now we're drowning each other.
Hmm. So let's play the game that women do all the time. Well,
Okay.
he does X, Y, and Z. He cheats and he manipulates, but he's really a good person. right? Because
Okay.
women will do that all day long, right? Like he does X and we excuse it. And then we're like, but really, like people don't know he's really a great person.
I would ask you if you believe that you're a good person.
Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously, not too much, right? If I'm sticking with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would you coach me?
Based on that.
Say based on that scenario.
Yeah. So first thing I would have you do would you would write down all the negative things you say to yourself when things go wrong in the relationship.
Mm,
And then we would flip those to the exact opposite because whatever negative things pop up in your head, they weren't there when you were put on this earth. So they had to come from somewhere. You didn't
mm,
just make them up. So we would flip them on the opposite because if we flip the negatives on the opposite, we can see where your natural gifts and beliefs formed based on the positive. But we have to start with the negative because everybody knows the negative and not the positive. And then you would start to see how many times you say these specific negative statements. And you'd be able to see that whatever experience caused those negative statements is actually attached to that positive, to your gifts and your purpose.
mm,
And then once you start to learn that about yourself, then we'd be able to reverse engineer when was the first time this belief showed up through time working together. And you'd say, oh, I was 7 years old when my dad went to jail. And then
oh,
we go through the process of reintroducing you to 7-year-old Barbie.
mm. So inner child work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's where we start with.
So in the meantime, I'm working with you, but I've decided to stay in this relationship.
Hmm.
What happens? I mean, I'm
With,
with the narcissist. I'm working on myself.
uh,
He's probably gaslighting me, I would imagine.
he's probably telling you to fire me by now.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we have plenty of women that are in relationships because it's the same thing. We focus on extreme ownership.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to tell them what's right or wrong. I'm just here to help them get where they want to go. And the reality is like the more work you do, again, those costumes become more and more uncomfortable. And so then you're giving your partner a new observation. You're really starting to show your partner your most authentic self,
Mm,
right? And so the beautiful thing is, and it goes both ways. The beautiful thing is they get to decide whether they want to be a part of that. So they'll either reject it, and you'll naturally feel that somebody's rejecting the most authentic version of you. So you're
mm,
not going to like want to stick around for that. Or they'll be curious about this new version and start to dive into their own stuff based on the woman you're becoming.
mm. How often does that happen?
I would say it's about 50-50.
That's good. I mean, those are pretty good odds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And some women kind of do their work in private and not share it with their partner. Other women share it with their partner in hopes of their partner doing the same thing.
Mhm.
But the best thing you can do for yourself and the partner is do the work.
Do you ever work with the partner side of it, the male side of it?
Yeah.
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 Because you can understand where they're coming from.
I can hit both sides. I can hit
Yeah.
both sides. But
Yeah.
same thing that I can help him because usually they're quote unquote successful on the outside, but have some guilt and shame and some stuff they're not proud of. And then I can meet them in that space without having to tell them what's right or wrong or anything and help them understand where it actually comes from. And then once they see it was from way back then they can give themselves some grace. And now they want to be a better person, want to be a better partner, want to contribute more to the relationship instead of like trying to avoid it.
So you said you have a good relationship with both your parents.
Hmm.
Do your parents own their past?
Yes. Yes. My mom does. My dad, he still hasn't like apologized or anything, but he's one of those people that's like, just, just
Move
happy and
on.
grateful and to each his own. I'm not here to change him. That's like I said, I'm here to take ownership for what I can. I'm not going to let that hold back a loving, nurturing relationship with him. So I would say they do for the most part, but
It sounds like you have forgiven everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you teach people? Because one thing that I've noticed is that if you don't forgive, you can't move on.
Yeah, forgiveness is a huge thing, and I have in-person retreats each year, and we go deep into forgiveness. And I think a lot of times people don't understand what forgiveness is because they think if they forgive somebody, it means reconciliation, or if they forgive somebody, that means it erases the pain, or if they forgive somebody, it means we condone their behavior.
Right.
And it doesn't obviously mean any of that, right? The forgiveness is to set ourselves free, that we're no longer willing to carry these things with us, right? They think forgiveness means reconciliation.
Right.
Reconciliation takes two, forgiveness only takes one, right? Forgiveness doesn't eliminate the pain, but it definitely unforgiveness keeps you from healing from the pain.
And I also think like as you heal, you begin to understand everybody else's journey, right?
Yeah, that's one of the greatest gifts of like the amount of grace and compassion and not taking things personal from other people. Because like you said, most of us, we're all just showing up with masks and costumes and wounds and
Right.
trying to figure everything out. Right.
Yeah.
And so once you see that, you're like, it's okay. I hear you. I see where you're coming
It's
from.
I always call it a costume too. So I
Yeah.
think I like that like, analogy of the costume. Um,
Yeah.
my 11-year-old son, he always says, my costume, because he knows like this is not who he is, right? Like this is just
Mm.
how he's showing up in this world, even if like it
He's
is,
he's way ahead of the game.
well, he has me. It's not to toot my own horn.
He's way ahead of the game. Good for
But
him.
I have an older child and she was with me as I was discovering myself. That's why I was asking
Mm.
your child, right? Because it's like as they go on the journey, they get to see you um transform and change your view, but they still got the old you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. That's very true. Yeah. Yeah. And my son he's seen both versions. He's seen the isolated depressed version and he sees this version and he's starting to mirror he's coming out of the old version that he observed, starting
Nice.
to lean into the new version.
And that must be satisfying for you.
It is. It is. It
Yeah.
is.
What's your relationship now? You said you have a girlfriend. How is that?
Yeah. Yeah. My girlfriend, now we've been dating like 7 or 8 months
Hmm.
because for a while after the healing rock bottom, I was solo and like isolated and thought I didn't deserve love and all that stuff. And now it's really freeing because of my whole journey. Like no matter what happens with this relationship or relationships in general, knowing that nobody can it won't be because of lying or cheating or narcissism that the relationship ends if it does end. And so having that level of freedom with myself to be transparent and operate from honesty is something I think that's super rare and unique because I don't have anything to hide and I've kind of done the work where most people get in the relationships and then try to do the work
Right.
in the relationship where I can just kind of show up as is.
And you're not, I would imagine at this point, not looking for her to solve your problems or feel a need, right? Because oftentimes people
Yeah.
get into
Yeah.
relationships and they're like, oh, this person can like, fill this
Yeah.
need that I'm lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely no needs to be filled. I wasn't even like looking for a partner or a relationship. Um, and so it's not like you said, it's not a band-aid or anything. It's just simply because it adds value to my life and vice versa.
Nice. Do you talk to your ex-wife?
No.
Yeah, that's just a relationship that's not gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I don't talk to my ex either.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to move on, right?
Yeah. There's not much to say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and they knew a different version of you. And so it's very hard to try to explain. I mean, obviously that person's not perfect either, right? But
Yeah.
it's hard to explain or when somebody knows something, that's what they that's who they think you are
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
most part, right? So
Yeah.
oftentimes I found in this journey, even like the people who are still in your life, oftentimes still see you the way that you were, even if you transformed in many, many different ways, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I battled that for a while. But even with my ex who took the brunt of all that stuff, apologized, explained to her the abandonment thing that, I loved her, but the only thing I loved more than that was myself and not being abandoned, which did all that. And then I went about my healing journey, right? And
Hmm.
it doesn't matter how much healing you do, that doesn't mean somebody's gonna forgive you or accept you back into their life. They have their own prerogative. And
Right.
that's you can always tell if your healing journey is in the right place. Because some people are like, I did all this stuff and they still won't accept me. I'm like,
Mhm. Right. It's not
you know?
about that acceptance. It's about self-acceptance, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But that's a journey and that's part of it, right? Because I think
yeah.
in the beginning we want everybody to be like, you want to be like,
Look
look,
at
I'm
me.
doing all this
Yeah.
work, give me attention. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I did that for a short time for sure. I was like, look at all this work I'm doing.
So what would you tell people? I know you specifically work with women, obviously men too, but specifically put that goal towards working with women. So
Mhm.
what would you tell the women out there? Like, what is your wisdom?
And just in general.
Yeah, I mean, you went through life, right? You had all
Yeah.
these wounds. You
Yeah.
are now helping people. So, what wisdom can you just offer to our listeners that will be like, I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I am. But give us like, something we can take away with. What have you learned? Like, what can you share?
So I have learned that, and this goes for anybody, it doesn't matter what the situation is, doesn't matter what you've done or what you've experienced. Every day that you open your eyes is a chance to make a choice to make a change.
Mm, a chance to make a choice to make a change. That's big, right?
It's big.
That's big.
That's a huge opportunity. It's a
Yeah.
huge opportunity, right? And if the moment you open your eyes, you think, what choice can I make to make a change? Doesn't
Mm,
have to be some grand thing. It can be something small, but you do have that opportunity. You wouldn't be here if you weren't meant to take that chance to make a choice, to make a change.
mm. So, the fact that you exist means that you have a chance every single day.
hmm There's an
Mm.
opportunity that you've been given. And so explore that. Doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in the mental hospital, whether you tried to kill yourself, whether you're in an abusive relationship,
Mm.
there's a choice.
Yeah. When you say that, my heart gets big. It's like, it's a reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to find you, how do we find you?
Yeah. Oh, you can go to dereknewborn.com, Derek Newborn on Instagram, Derek Newborn on Facebook. I always recommend just shooting me a message on my social media. Keep it
Mhm.
super personal on there. Shoot me a question or anything. We'll have a personable chat one-on-one about whatever. Either way, it's the
Mm.
easiest way to connect with me. I like to keep it personal,
Yeah. Love that because
informal,
there's
I should say, informal.
informal and like there's so many people out there who they're not responding to their own chats and they've got, people doing it for them and stuff. So
I
I'm not,
promise it's me.
it's you. Good.
Yeah, I
Good.
promise it's me.
Well, thank you for offering your gift to the world.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a great convo.
Yeah, it's fun. It's always fun seeing where it goes, right?
Yeah, yeah, I like it that way.
Good. Well, I will put all of your info in our description. So if they didn't catch your website or didn't catch your Instagram or whatever, people can reach out to you. And I'm sure that you made a difference in somebody's life today.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Of course, grateful. Thank you. If this story spoke to you, let's keep the healing going. Visit barbiemoreno.com for my online course, Awakening Your Worth and Healing Energy sessions, one-on-one coaching, and your free healing guide. Your next step is waiting.